Hey, what's up, everybody? Ryan Keisel here with Elevate Home Subscriptions. Welcome to another episode of the Elevate Realtor Hub podcast. Today, we're lucky to have the one and only Mr. Jared Fenn in studio. So, Jared, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
Glad to have you here today. We've been trying to put this together for a little while, so I'm glad that our schedules finally lined up to where we can sit down and chat for a little bit. So, if you're in the real estate industry, especially here in Utah, you know Jared. He's been around in the industry for a long time. What year did you start in the business?
Started getting into it in 2006. Great time to get into real estate.
Yes, a really good time to get in real estate for sure. So 2006, and kind of a fun thing that we have in common besides being in the real estate industry together is we're both pageant dads, right? And so
yes,
that's kind of been a fun thing to connect on. And both of our daughters do pageants. And
that's we're kind of in that season for Utah. You know, the state Miss Teens coming up in a month, so
yes,
we're in full swing.
Well, bless you all. Having been there, done that, and watched my wife and daughter go through that process. It's awesome. I really admire these young ladies that put themselves out there, and there's lots of learning and growing and stuff. I grew up with all brothers, so I did not understand pageants.
See, that's total. I'm oldest of five. I have a younger sister, but you know, and my dad's like one of eight with one sister. So when my wife said, we're going to do this for scholarships, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? But no, that was, and I keep saying this to people, is that, you know, it was last year, we were sitting in the orientation, getting ready for like another season of it. And I'm looking around, I'm like, wait a minute, this is who I want my daughter hanging out with.
Yeah.
You know, these are
sharp ladies.
These people are going places.
They really are.
Yeah, no, did a full 180 on my perception on things. So
yeah. Well, and just to be vulnerable like that, to put themselves out there on stage and in public and stuff like that. So my always had respect for it, but a whole new level after watching my own daughter participate and stuff. Anyways, best of luck to your daughter this year. That's super exciting. But it's kind of been fun to connect on that as well. So let's jump in. 2025, hard to believe that we're already, first of the year, things are getting rolling. 2024 was an interesting year in the real estate industry. And what's your biggest takeaway from 2024?
2024 for me was kind of everything just kind of plateaued, so to speak. I mean, things were growing. We had a lot of changes on our team kind of the end of 2023, because 2023 is where everything just kind of, and so everybody started panicking, everything started happening. And then 2024, everybody's just like, let's just wait. And so it was just a lot of stagnation is how I feel. But I think now it's like, okay, which was good, because I could kind of like, okay, let's refine some processes. Let's rethink some things. We had a great year. We had one of our best years ever in 2024. And so it was a good year. And I think the other big thing that, I talk about this a lot when I'm, classes, what are you seeing? And a big thing just from my perspective in my industry, something that's shifted a lot and kind of really solidified in 2024 compared to, well, it started after the pandemic, but prices skyrocketed. And so if you look at 6 years ago, homes have almost doubled in price. Home inspections haven't, as far as the costs. I mean, we haven't kept up with those home prices, but home buyers are spending accordingly. So what that translates to is, home inspection is not that, I mean, maybe 30-40% higher than what it was 6 years ago, but people are spending almost double, because whether it's just a frame of reference of like, okay, the home is this, I'm going to spend about this much, or it's the pandemic, but we are now seeing almost triple people spending on radon testing and mold testing and sewer inspections and all of these other things. Because it's like, the home inspection is great, gives me, kind of peace of mind, but I want this extra level. So that to me was the biggest shift in 2024 is where just for my company, our revenue about tripled compared to 5 years ago of the additional services. So people are spending. Awesome. So when agents say, well, what's the average cost for inspection? $500-$600. How much are people spending? $800 to $1,200. I mean, that's the big shift that, a lot of agents, I try to communicate that, because then agents are always like, oh yeah, you're going to spend like $500-$600. No, people are spending a lot more. And, so I think people are looking at a more well-rounded. They're getting more educated. It's not just like, oh, home inspection, but I mean, we don't even promote or push any of that. It's just like, yeah, I want this. I mean, they've already done the research. They know what they want coming into it. So it's a whole different ball game compared to 18 years ago when I started.
Yeah, for sure. So that's interesting. Are the agents then driving some of those additional add-ons, or you're finding the homeowner or potential buyers coming in really savvy and saying, hey, I want these things as well?
So I see both sides. So I see, some of the more experienced agents, they're like, yeah, we've dealt with, my client bought a meth house. We dealt with my client, because they get down the road and they're like, oh, wow, we've got mold in the house. Wow, we've had these problems. Who are they going to call? They're going to go back to the agent. So it only takes one time before the agent's like, oh, nope, we're getting radon testing on every home. Yep, I want a meth test on every house. But then we also get the agent calling me like, what the heck? Why are your guys' prices so high? It's like, well, they ordered this. Oh, okay. So it's coming from both angles, I see.
Awesome. That's great. So in 2024, for sure, I think, like you said, the brakes kind of went on in 2023 in the industry. So then 2024, you're sitting there and you've been in the industry for a while. I think it's easy for anybody as you're growing your business and stuff like that. You use the word stagnant. It's easy to get stagnant, right? And it's easy to get caught in this is how we've always done it, so it's how we're always going to do it and stuff like that. What was it that was the wake-up call, or what motivated you and pushed you to step outside that and say, okay, the real estate industry is slower right now. There's some challenges. Therefore, now what?
So a lot of it is, I think what it came down to me, it was October 2023. Isn't that when everything just kind of like,
felt like everything went on a little bit?
What happened here? And I had, great team. We had all these great processes. We'd really been building things up. And all of a sudden it was like, yeah, my business just halved and I had no control, and so it was like, okay, we got to rethink this. And so that's where we started really shifting towards, where most home inspectors, it's really your business is your home buyer. And so that's where we started shifting things and saying, look, let's look at the homeowner. And so we started in 2023, started looking more at, we have this expertise. It doesn't just benefit someone that's buying a house, but anyone who's in a home. Where the light bulb went on, where it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, is I was sitting in a room full of agents, and I remember I was just kind of overhearing, 3 or 4 of them talking, and one of them was saying, yeah, my daughter, she's been dealing with this problem. She has water in her basement, and so they called the sprinkler guy because they figured it was leaking sprinkler, but he came out and he couldn't figure anything out, and then they called a plumber. And so she's going through, like, her daughter had called like 4 people. They didn't know where the water was coming from. And I'm thinking, like, this is an agent that I've worked with for a decade. And I'm like,
I can help.
That's what we do, And I was just like, oh my gosh, people don't even think that, I think of a home inspector to make sure the home I'm buying is a problem. But when you think of all the different trades, all of those other trades are trying to sell you a service. I mean, for good or bad, that's what they're in business for. We aren't. I mean, we're the one that kind of says, yeah, you need to call the plumber. No, you need to call this. We had another one where water was coming in. It was an inspection we'd done, before. And he's like, hey, we've got water coming in. And it was like, and luckily he called us out and he's like, well, I was going to call the window guy because it's leaking around the windows. And I'm like, well, yeah, he'll come in and he'll sell you a new window. He'll replace the window, but it's not coming from the window. He's like, is it coming from the gutters? Well, it could be coming from the gutters. It's coming around. And could it be from the roof? Yeah, it could be, there's all these things, but we can kind of look at it from a holistic standpoint of saying, look, okay, yeah, let's point you in the right direction. And so that's really what we've started shifting is let's focus on the homeowner. Let's talk to the homeowner. We've started doing more social media so we get a lot of, when people have a mold, I think I have a mold problem. Great. You can call the remediation company and ultimately you might end up with them, but I have nothing to gain if we find radon, if we find mold, if we find meth, but you can get that unbiased, objective opinion rather than,
Somebody's sell them. Yeah, for sure.
Sure. I mean, you've got radon companies that are offering free testing. Great. And you've got mold companies that will offer free mold testing. Why are they doing that? Because they have a vested interest in hopefully it's going to come back negatively and they're going to sell you a service. And so,
correct.
Not that they're all unethical. It's just, there's a bias.
Yeah, for sure. Very similar in the home subscription industry, right? You know, you see in retail HVAC, we'll do a tune-up for $5. Well, those retail companies are doing those $5 tune-ups because they're going in looking for other work, right? And as you mentioned, not all of them. There's great trades out there for sure, but yeah, totally get that. So interesting. We are in an industry where we've been in it long enough to hear, you know, the client for life. So all of a sudden there's a shift in your mind and in your business of like, okay, before it was almost like not necessarily one and done, but let's go do the inspection and then on to the next, right? And that's hard to build like a long-term business, right? If you're always out looking for that next deal.
Right. I mean, because they're going to be in that house for 5 to 7 years, and
yeah,
you know, and so it was always a model of, well, we'll stay in touch with them because they're going to probably know someone and they'll refer us. But yeah, we can still help them out with a lot of things.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really something, you know, that we're leaning into at Elevate as well, is just this whole, like, I think in business, sometimes we ask questions, you know, should I do this or this? And I think the longer that I've been in business and as we're growing Elevate, and it sounds like what you're doing as well, it's and, right? Like we always want to go either or and, but really it's and, right? Yeah, we should do the initial inspection and let's offer services after that inspection and, you know, all these things. So I love that. So I really, really love what you're doing over there as it relates to the market ready inspection. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So yeah, so that's the other big shift is, you know, we've always offered seller inspections, and obviously that's a whole nother demographic. You look at, you know, what, 10, 12,000 transactions in Utah County, and half of those, you know, are on the seller side, half are on the buyer side. And if we're doing home inspections just for buyers, you know, why not open up that demographic? So that's always been there. Where it started is about 6 months ago. Pillar to Post, our, you know, as a franchise, so our corporate office was looking at this as well. It's funny, you look at trends, and I have some friends, Pillar to Post in Monterey Bay, down in California. 70-80% of their inspections come from the sellers.
Interesting.
So you have that shift, and so Pillar to Post is looking at that. They're looking at what we've always done. They said, let's do a pilot. We want to get some research. We want to figure out what would, you know, how to make this work. And the whole concept was, it should be. We want to create an inspection, a service, or a product that is kind of like staging or professional photography. I mean, you look 20 years ago, maybe a high-end home, who staged? Now, who wouldn't? I mean, if you're serious about selling your house, your agent will do staging.
It makes a difference,
right? You know, professional photography. You know, and so that's kind of now professional photography, staging, and a pre-inspection. And so that was kind of the premise. They reached out. They chose my team, said, hey, we want you to be in this pilot group. So they chose about 6 franchises from across the country and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to offer a bunch of these for free. And so basically corporate was paying us to do the inspections. We wouldn't charge the seller. And so we go out and hey, we'll do the inspection for free, but we're going to bug you. We're going to want to get some feedback. We're going to see how it's working. And so we learned a lot during that. That whole pilot ended in about November.
Okay.
And so all summer, you know, and fall last year, we were doing a lot of these and really learned a lot of interesting stuff. And so if I just had to sum up kind of what is this market ready inspection compared to a seller inspection that we've done for, you know, since I started doing inspections, a seller inspection or a pre-listing inspection, really the goal and the focus is to arm the seller with information, because information's power. If the buyer has all that, they're going to negotiate in their favor. If the seller has it, they can negotiate in their favor. That's why you do a seller inspection.
Totally.
We've kind of said, great, that's information, but why not take it one level, you know, not just get your house clean, but let's get it staged. And that's kind of the idea with the market ready inspection is we want to put it in a light where it's everything. So those sellers, for the potential buyers, it's just, it's one and done. It's ready to go. And so that's what we've seen. And that's the feedback that we've gotten is, wow, the transaction is so smooth. You talk to any agent, it's like, great, you got the house under contract. Are you now like calm? Is your anxiety level good? No, it's not till after the due diligence period usually, because there's so many things that could go wrong. Well, like what? Well, we don't know what they're going to find on the inspection. You know, all of that.
Yeah.
And so,
and you lose your leverage, right?
You lose that leverage.
Yeah, for sure.
So the market ready inspection, what we're offering now is we do this whole inspection, but there's a lot more prep work. So for example, we got out to do one, and and all of this was kind of learning as we go, and we get out there and it's like, wow, it's a brand new roof. It looks new. I mean, 1 year old, 6 months old, 2 years old. It looks new, and that's what we would normally put in the report. Hey, the roof looks pretty new. But then it's like, well, why don't we, oh no, it was just put on last month. Oh, well, who was so now this market ready inspection is, hey, it's a brand new roof put on by this company. It comes with this much warranty. Here's their contact information. And,
nice.
And here's the warranty. So it's actually trying. So we encourage the sellers to get that seller's disclosure. So another one that we did the inspection and when we're going through things with the agent and the seller and they're like, well, so should we be concerned about the basement flooding? And I was like, what? Like, oh yeah, it's flooded 3 times. I'm like, no, I didn't. Come down and show me. She walked me through everything. That's going to be in the seller's disclosures. Mm-hmm. And so if I have that up front, I can make reference of that in my report. And the fact was, the way she explained what things were done, yep, that looks legit. That looks like what I would expect. I don't see any signs. We extra test those areas for moisture and residual issues. Nope, everything's good. And so having that in the report versus, oh yeah, we did an inspection. Let's just go, wait, this doesn't, I better get my own inspection. So all of these things we started building up. And so the idea is, so what the package, the service includes is we do the full inspection. The process is the same. The inspection is the same, but what's delivered is a report that's really more tailored to the general buyer. We do a summary report. So we call it a highlights page. It's usually 2 or 3 pages. Think of it like a Carfax, or the analogy I always give is you go into the dealership, you're going to buy a Ford Explorer, you look and they've got their glossy, here's all the great things about. Well, that's kind of like all of the stuff that agents are already doing. Yeah. But then if you're sitting in their dealership and you're like, okay, wait, here's the consumer reports on SUVs, and you find this is the specifics. This is an unbiased third-party review. That's kind of what this highlights report. So we go through and we say, okay, the roof, this is what the roof system's like. This is what the HVAC system, this is the plumbing system, this is the age, so it's just a 2-page at a glance. You get to see all that. With all of our inspections, we've always done the 360 tours. So it's kind of like a Matterport. So they're getting all that. And then there's a little flyer that has QR codes. And so that's how a lot of these agents started using them, is they would put it like in those acrylic covers. So on an open house, when, someone's coming to list, just put that on the counter.
Oh, nice. And then
so anyone comes through, they scan the code,
they get the
report, they get the floor plans.
I love that.
They get the full 360 tour, they take it home, they can go figure all that out. So it's just, and we had a lot of these. We have, we found that there's kind of 2 categories of people that like to do this. One is where, we just need to differentiate this home. It's a nice home, but there's like 5 others in the neighborhood like it. Mm-hmm. That kind of sets it apart. It lets people make a more confident full price offer of like, nope, this is good and we're not going to negotiate it, versus, we're going to, lowball you, or because we don't really know. But then you also have a category. We started getting a lot of these from the as is. You get a lot of this. We had one that was up on the bench in Provo, the coveted area that not too many homes go up for sale, huge lot. And so if you were just like, price per square foot, get that under contract, sight unseen. I mean, that's like, we got to get on this. That's a great deal. Oh, you show up, you get the inspection, you're like, I don't have 150 grand to like dump into this to, just get it livable, that sort of situation. And so that, and so I talked to the agent after that finally closed, and it was just like, we had solid offers and everything went through. So it's
awesome. So
those are the categories. So, and you're going to get me talking about all kinds of stuff here.
So I love this. So I have so many questions as well, because why wouldn't an agent do a market ready listing inspection?
So that was a big thing as we were doing this pilot program, kind of just figuring out what are the obstacles. And it was really interesting in some parts of the country. I have to, you give kudos to Utah agents that we are a lot more ethical, because there was
amazing agents.
There was a couple other pillar post guys in other parts of the country, and even though they were offering it for free in that 4 or 5 month period that we were doing that, they could not do one. The agents were so like, I don't want to know. Don't tell me. I want. So that's the big objection we've always had is like, if there's a big problem, then I'm going to have to, we're going to have to disclose it. It's like almost, it's not unethical, but it's also just, hide your head in the sand and hopefully no one will catch the problem, that kind of stuff. And it's like, who's that really
fiduciary responsibility?
Yeah,
in
who's
the industry,
that really
right?
serving? And so, it was interesting that Utah, I mean, if I had more time, we could have done probably triple, because most agents are like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's try this out. But yeah, these other guys, I mean, there was one franchisee that was just like, yeah, I've put on lunches. I've taken agents to, breakfast. I cannot get anyone that will take me up on it. So
is that change as hard or maybe a little bit? And
so I think that's what
different.
It's I've seen shifts. I was telling about that one agent that for years he's just like, no, I don't. It was kind of that mentality of like, I don't want to. No, that's too much.
Yeah.
That's liability that I don't want to take on. And but now it's part of his listing. I mean,
that's awesome.
That's part of his listing package because he, okay, now this makes sense.
The value in it is evolving.
And that's what we've seen. So number one objection is it's better that we don't know all of these things. Number two objection is they're just going to get another inspection. So that was another big thing that in our market research going through this pilot. So this is what we found.
Yeah.
At least this is home inspections and real estate according to Jared. Buyers don't want their own inspection. They want that experience. They want that connection. They want to feel that peace of mind.
Yeah.
And so what we started adding as part of our service is what we call buyer consult. And so if the seller does the inspection, and that's another shift too, is this is like staging or like photography. You don't go to your seller and say, okay, yeah, go get an inspection. Go find a photographer and go grab some furniture and go. No, the agent, it's their service, it's their product. And so that's one thing that we're encouraging is like, this is for you, agent. So you're our client, right? Not the seller. Yeah. You're our client. It's going to help you do your job. So, working with the agent, then they're saying, okay, so kind of the process is we do the inspection. Buyers come in, they say, hey, we've already got the inspection report. And if you want, pillar to post, we'll come back and do the full walk through and go through everything with your buyer for $250. So we go and spend an hour to 2 hours, walk through with everything. We have them sign our agreements. So we're just as liable to this new buyer. Right. They get the full experience. Then if they want to, well, I wanted to get a radon test. I wanted to get the sewer scoped. Okay, we can do those. And we go through the full walkthrough. They're looking at it and going, okay, I can go and get another inspector that's going to kind of do the same thing and spend $500, $600, $700. Or I can spend $250. We can go through this report. I can get some of those other things done that I wanted to do. So it's a service to the buyer because they're spending less money. And then if you look at from a listing agent's perspective, they're kind of in a little bit more control. Because I will admit, if I ever go to do an inspection and they say, oh, they already had this inspection report, I'm going to look through it and it's like, okay, well, let's go see what else I can find. It's like, oh, let's challenge accepted. Let's go see what else I can find. And it's going to be this nitpicky stuff. And so when you talk into the agent and you say, look, if you want to avoid that situation, promote our buyer consult. Because what we found is when agents promoted that, at least of the ones that we did over the pilot, no one said, no, I want to do my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so
not one person. That's awesome.
I mean, as far as I'm aware, I mean, and we even had some, and that was even this happened on 2 different properties. We went out, we did the buyer consult, and they canceled the contract.
Interesting.
And and at first I was like, oh crap, they're going to blame that on me. And it was like, no, they mean,
just different reasons.
It just happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it just happens, and okay, let's move on. And things still got sold, and they still, and so it's not. That buyer consult is just something that it's like that makes sense. So kind of shift back. It really comes down to, it's not that the buyer is going to want to get their own inspection. And that's the big objection. Well, I don't want to do it because they're going to want to do it on their own.
Right.
No.
That's not what you found.
They'll leverage what you've done as long as you present it as such. And so that's that was the other big learning. So as far as why aren't people doing it, and then the other one is always just the cost. Well, I don't want to spend $500, $600, $700. Okay, guaranteed you're going to lose more than that on the sale price. I mean, that's just you run the numbers on any one of those things. You go through that report. You're telling me there's less than $700 worth of things that the buyer's not going to try to negotiate had they done that.
Correct.
It to me, that's kind of like, okay, yeah.
No
you just don't want to spend the money to do your job is, unfortunately that's kind of what it feels like, which is hard in this economy where money is tight.
To pay for more or
different
things like that. Yeah, it is hard. But I'm thinking, okay, from a seller, if I were a seller, what that customer experience would be, I'd be willing to pay for that inspection because then I feel like we retain control. I want to know, because oftentimes we know our homes well, right? But admittedly, I don't have an inspector come out and look at it every single year or whatever else. So I would want to know it as a seller. Is there anything that I don't know about? And if there is, then we can price it accordingly, because then I feel like we retain control. So when an offer does come in, and then if they even want to do their own inspection, great. But then when they come back and say, hey, I want you to knock off $5,000 because the plug in the bathroom doesn't work or whatever else, we can just say, hey, no, we've already planned accordingly and priced it accordingly to these things. We know these things. It just feels like a more transparent transaction. And I'm thinking contract to close, that's got to speed up that process and take away what are the landmines that we're not seeing out here that might blow this transaction up? Right.
And that's really, as you talk to agents you've been doing this for a lot longer, it's like, why do you do it? Because my job is so much easier. Mm-hmm. It's that stress, that anxiety of like, okay, what's going to happen? Oh no, they've got their inspection tomorrow. All of that is gone. It just, here's what we're selling. Let's just, get it out the door.
Yeah. Like that.
And so it's almost like the difference between being a used car salesman versus a brand new car salesman. New car salesman, it's just like, you either like it or you don't, and you can afford it or you can't.
Correct.
Used car, it's like, well, are they going to be okay with this dent? Are they going to be, it's all of that hassle where everything's just, here's where it is.
Yeah.
And so
that's awesome. I especially love it too, because shameless plug here, that we have the free listing coverage at Elevate Home Descriptions. And so I'm sitting over here thinking, okay, if your market ready inspection and the Elevate Home Descriptions free listing coverage had a baby, what would that product be called? Right. But I think that's just such a good combo, right? Like if an agent puts the listing coverage on the property, they have a market ready inspection. Talk about an awesome experience, not only for the seller during the listing period, but when that buyer comes through and makes an offer on the house and then buys the house. I just think it makes that process better and their homeownership experience long after the close, And so
to me, thing. I mean, that's the thing too, is that this is off kind of on a tangent, but that listing coverage, you guys are always sponsoring my classes. We're always interacting with different things. And you guys pitch that, and it's like, I don't ever hear of anyone using it. It's like, but this is a no brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of people are just like, I think they don't understand what's the catch?
Totally.
But from my perspective, you would be amazed over the years that I've been doing this, how many times we get to the inspection and, did you know your water heater's leaking? What? No. Or I remember just recently we get to the house and it's like, wow, this water heater looks brand new. Yeah, it went out last week. It's been listed for 2 months. Water heater goes out the week before Murphy's the inspection. Law. Murphy's Law
it's a real deal, especially when your house is listed.
Yes. And so to me, it's a no brainer as far as the, So I agree. I don't understand it's kind of like you're saying, why wouldn't people want to get a listing inspection?
Right. Why wouldn't people want listing coverage on the property? And I think it comes down to, right, because with our free listing coverage, it's free for the listing period to the seller. The contingency, of course, is that we provide a warranty for the buyer at close. And so I understand that it's negotiating more of that. But again, it's that protection and it's that customer experience. We all work with really good realtors. We have really good realtors everywhere that we're at. And it's one of those things of like, our number one responsibility is to take care of our customers and to make sure that our fiduciary responsibility is to make sure that they have an amazing buying experience, selling experience, and that they're protected long after the close, right? Minimizing risk, and so we had one recently, and I know you see these all the time as well. And in this situation, fortunately for the buyer and the seller, they did have the free listing coverage. But again, Murphy's Law, property, they had obviously a home inspection done on it, but they had the free listing coverage on it as well. Property closes, seller agrees to allow buyer to take possession a couple days before it funds or whatever. Well, they move into the house, and of course, the Murphy's Law, the HVAC is not working the day they move in. They really, technically, it hasn't really funded and recorded yet. So technically, the buyer doesn't own that property
so
yet.
The normal home warranty wouldn't.
Yeah. So, if you want to get down into technicalities, as you know, we're always going to do whatever we can to take care of our customers and our homeowners. And so, but at the end of the day, it was an awesome scenario of like, okay, they had an inspection. The inspection said the HVAC equipment was working great. There was no issues. They had listing coverage, and then they had a buyer's coverage in place as well at funding. And so we got them taken care of. But imagine had they not had that coverage at all of a sudden you're literally moving into your house, and the first thing you do is pay to get your furnace repaired, and nobody wants that, So, anyways, we'll have to come up with a combo there. I love the idea of that, but that's really awesome what you all are doing there.
It's exciting just to kind of see it take off. We're starting to see more and more, agents just calling us out of the blue that we haven't really. Hey, I want to do this. We're getting a lot more of, so we just had one last week with property management company where, my client just wants, they're ready to get out of this property. It's kind of run down, but that scenario of like, it's as is. I don't want to mess around with it. Let's just get this thing closed so we can get them into something else. And that quick to close is probably one of the biggest benefits that we're seeing. And again, that goes back to why our client really is the listing agent. It's not the seller. Because at the end of the day, the seller is expecting the agent to get them top dollar.
Correct.
And how's the agent, so they don't care. I don't care how you get it done. Just get me top dollar. Well, you got to invest this. You got to pay. No, I'm paying you to get me top dollar. So that's where we said, it makes more sense. Our client is the listing agent. It's not the seller. It's not the homeowner. Yeah, they need to know about it. But at the end of the day, your roof is at the end of its life and you've got a problem with this, you got a problem. That's the listing agent's job to come up with a strategy of how I'm going to sell the house now knowing this. It's, maybe it's, seller, you need to fork over some money, but maybe it's not. I mean, that's what we talk about. That's one of the other big objections. I don't want to fix anything. You don't have to.
You don't have to. You just price it appropriately.
You just need a strategy.
Yeah.
So on one of those, I talked to the agent and I said, what do you think? She's like, after we got the report, and there was a lot of, there was a situation, husband had left, house had kind of gone in disrepair, and, but it was a nice house, high-end neighborhood. And when she went through our report, she priced it, and I guess neighbors were like, why? Because it was like priced 10, 15,000 under what some of the other ones in the neighborhood were going for. So it was bringing property values down. And so the agent's like, no, this is what the issue is. Cause look, and, sure enough, they came through and didn't have to do any, I think they ended up negotiating like $1,000. Yeah. Just like, okay, let's just, we'll give you $1,000, even though we already know all this stuff. Yep. But considering it was only 10 or 15,000, where if I were the buyer and knowing what was in that report, I would have been like, I need to redo 2 bathrooms. I have who knows how many other plumbing. I want to negotiate 25, 30. Yeah. And that's the thing is buyers are always going to err on the side of caution, and
they're going to ask for way more than what it's going to cost to potentially fix the issue or whatever. Right. And at that point, if you didn't do the market ready listing inspection and they've done the inspection, they're kind of in the driver's seat. Right. And how much time have you killed off the clock waiting, through the due diligence period and stuff like that. And so, this is really intriguing. I'm excited to see that it's taken off and just seeing, how it's working out, and I'm curious to see moving forward. Right, change is hard. I get that. Right, as we change things in the industry and change our perspective and habits and different things like that, it just takes time. But I do know this is as I look at what we do in our industry, in any industry, right? When people hire us, whether it's the inspector, the home subscription company, the realtor, the mortgage person, they're looking for a guide. And I think as we continue to evolve in our industry and become that true guide and put our clients' interests way before our own interests, that's when the magic happens, right? It's so easy for all of us to worry about a commissionectomy or something else like that. But I think this product that you're like offering now really is almost like a commissionectomy preventer, right? Like now all of a sudden you're like setting up the odds for this deal to close even that much greater, you know? And so another trend that we're kind of seeing, I'd love to kind of get your input on it, and is, you know, going back to being that guide, I really do believe, you know, when I hire somebody, I want them, you know, if I'm hiring a realtor, I want their team, right? Like that's what I'm hiring them for, their expertise and different things like that. We're kind of starting to see this trend where oftentimes real estate professionals are saying, hey, here's 3 people, right? And then they go out and then have to do that work. Well, I'm sitting there as a consumer thinking like, no, I would want, you know, okay, give me your 3. I'm okay with that. I understand maybe by law realtors need to do that. I don't know if that's a law or not. That's what I hear. But it's one of those things of like, okay, give me your 3, but which one's your top? Because I know you have a top, right? And so to me, this product you're offering allows them just another way to become that guide, that trusted professional to guide them through this process.
Right. I'm the professional. I know how to sell a house. Here's how I do it. You're either paying me to do my job or not.
Right.
And so agents can have that confidence to say, yeah, this is, I mean, I know that this stager works. I know that this photographer works. I know this inspection. I know this home description. I mean, all of those things I see agents. So yeah, we've had lots of discussions, because that really in the inspection industry becomes a big topic of, it's a professional liability. So there is a thing out there that if you as a professional recommend another professional and that professional screws up, you have some liability. So yes, that's there. But so Peter Christensen used to be, you know, legal counsel for Utah State, and we had this discussion. Man, now it's been like 7-8 years ago. But he even like, you know, did one of his monthly things and said there is 0 legal precedence that's what everybody teaches, but there is 0 evidence that has ever done any good for anyone. That, you know, and they say, oh no, I have to, and you know, and if your broker's requiring that, but it's so we ran into this with we were getting really slammed, and so we had a radon company that said, hey, how about, you know, let's, you know, we can outsource some of our radon testing, and we'll help you out with some of that radon testing if you just, you know, give us an opportunity. If the radon's high, let us at least just send a quote. And I'm thinking, you know, how's that going to look on me? Is it going to look? And so I reached out to some of my top agents and I said, hey, if we did this, how would that look to you? And at first they were like, but then they're like, wait, you mean if the radon's high, I'm just going to get a quote? I don't have to like call around, and it's someone that you trust. And yeah, you know, and it was like, that's where it kind of came.
You're
it's
still
like
eliminating that hassle. You're still becoming that guide and taking care of them.
It's just in this industry, I went to another marketing class, and it was interesting because this has really stuck with me, that affiliate marketing, that's the trend. I mean, that's this next generation with influencers. Is it doesn't matter if you're an expert. People are trying to filter. We have too much information. And the example they gave was, let's say you're following some guy for your gym, you know, your workout routine, you know, and okay. And so he gives you this is what my nutrition shake that I'm drinking. And okay, yeah, you know, I trust him for all of this stuff. Yeah. And it could even be the point where he's like, I just got new tires at this shop over here. They treated me awesome. Got a sweet deal.
Word of mouth from people you trust.
Yeah. It's like, and it doesn't have to be like this kind of relationship, but it could be, well, I trust this guy. And if he trusts that company, why shouldn't I?
Yeah.
You know, and so it just opened my mind that people are just, if I trust you,
it's the way the world works.
It's the way things are going.
If you recommend something to me, I trust it. I've known you long enough that for sure I would trust
going back to that, like, well, I don't want the liability. The reality is if, you know, in the case of the home inspector and the agent referring the home inspector or the home, if it comes to a lawsuit, you're getting pulled into it no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, and how much more likely are you to get pulled into a lawsuit if you let them just go with 0 experience and 0 knowledge, choose some random person out there.
Right.
Versus, okay, no, I know this company's going to do good. When people think through it, it's like, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. When people give me 3, I think, okay, great. Thank you so much. Which one's your top? Because I always ask, I want to know the top. But also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, I could have Googled and got the top 3, right? Like, You know what I mean? And so it's just kind of been an interesting trend, and we're seeing that obviously in our side of the business as well. So the thing I love about everything that you're doing right now in your business is, in 2024, I feel like the big buzzword was lead with value, right? Like if I had $1, if you had $1 for every time either, one of us said like lead with value, or we heard somebody in the industry say lead with value, which is so true, right? I'm not making fun of it. Like we always should be leading with value. And that's kind of just like in my mind, the bare minimum. But one trend that I'm seeing, and I think moving in 2025, and I love our discussion here today because what you're saying and what I'm hearing is we got to lead with value, but we also have to storytell and we have to lean into the emotion of it. And I think this market ready listing inspection does that really, really well, because I guarantee, any agent that sees this or you have this discussion with, they've all had an experience where a buyer's inspection has blown up the transaction, right? And there's no guarantees with a market ready inspection that there won't be challenges. But these things up front, and then you're not wasting anybody's time for the couple weeks of due diligence or whatever it may be. Right. And this feeling of like, oh, great, we're under contract, and then all of a sudden we get an inspection a couple weeks down the road. It's like, ugh, out of contract, So I just think, storytelling behind this is just phenomenal.
Well, and that's what I tell people, along the storytelling is, okay, what do you do from here? Here's your report. What do you do now? Well, I don't have to go fix it. No. You need a story or a strategy for everything in here. What if that one point is what the buyer has a hang up on? Their basement just flooded and I put in the report that there's some staining around the floor that looks like that's going to be, so what's your story? What's your strategy?
Sit down, shine a bright light on it.
Just, hey, let's just, have a strategy. Yeah. That's another just topic is, kind of a tangent, but a lot of times is like, well, should we do a radon test? Should we do a mold test? Should we do... No, I mean, that's the one thing is for seller inspections, don't do all those extra things. If the buyer wants that extra peace of mind, let them put that on. But I don't think you need to like invent all that. But at the same time, like radon testing, 1 in 3 homes is going to test high. That's statistics across Utah. Very common. Just plan on it with your seller. Look, you have a 30% chance that we might have to deal with radon. We'll cross that bridge when we need to. Let's just plan on that. So it's not a matter of you're going to preempt everything, right? But you've got a story, you've got a strategy, and that's what they're paying the professionals. Be strategic. Let's get my house sold quickly and for top dollar.
For sure. And I think along the lines with those stories as well, because it is hard to go in and say, hey, seller, by the way, here's my compensation, and there's going to be buyer comp and a homescription, and now I want you to do this market ready inspection as well. Mm-hmm. But it's all, it's not what we say, it's how we say it. It's in the presentation, right? And so, as their trusted professional, you can sit down and say, my experience has been, I've got this deal and this deal. You just tell the story of the deals that blew up where they lost leverage by not doing a market ready inspection. And then they see the value in you retain control, we retain control of this negotiation by doing this up front. And I think anybody that hears that and understands how it all works would go, okay. And especially if their trusted professional and their guide is saying, this is what I do on every single one of my transactions.
And this is what works.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're paying you for, is they're trusting that you know how to do it. Along that it's time to close. I mean, we're seeing that whole process just shorten up.
Which
we had one where
love that,
they were like, well, we want a 14-day due diligence. They're like, we already had the inspection. Okay, fine, we'll do 5 days. So right there, just having that inspection, which
is huge.
And if that means one more mortgage payment, cash flow wise, the inspection just paid for itself.
Yep.
And that's all part of that story that agents, once they start looking at the big picture and what's really at the bottom, how does it hit the bottom line for the seller? Okay, this, obviously I'm biased, but it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well done. I love everything that you're doing to elevate the business. Really appreciate our friendship and learning and growing from the things that you've shared with me. I know we've both been pushing the envelope on just different things in the industry and trying to raise the bar in real estate. And so, just grateful for all of our partners that support, both of our businesses and just being in this industry. I love our industry. It's even with its challenges, right? Like the real estate industry is so fun.
Never a dull day.
There's never a dull day. Speaking of which, I was going to ask you real quickly, what's your funniest like inspection story or industry story?
People, we ask that a lot, and the one that keeps coming back, this was like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. One of my inspectors calls up and he's like, how do I report this? And I was like, what? And he sends me pictures. They were, I think this was in Provo, Springville. A fully functional toilet had been installed up in the attic. So you climbed up in the attic.
A picture? I think I saw this online. This is crazy.
But it was like a little platform. You got the insulation everywhere, cobwebs and nasty, and there's a toilet that's fully functional. I would love to know the story behind that.
That is so crazy.
But like, what?
Why?
Yeah. Sorry, husband. You use that toilet from now on. I mean, what is the story beyond? But that was the craziest ones that I'm still scratching my head on. Like, what on earth?
Yeah, that is one of the most interesting things about our business. Is just to see how people live, and just every house has a story, right?
Yeah,
and it's fun to hear that. That's fun. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, awesome. Let's do a quick, if we could. We'd love to do some quick rapid fire, just so people can get to know you. Yeah. Obviously, I know. You've been in the business forever, and you're kind of a big deal, and people know you. But
for better or worse,
I love to do just a quick rapid fire thing so people can get to know you better. But before we do that, just a couple more questions, maybe two, just random stuff.
Yeah.
What's the best $100? What's something that you bought for under $100 this last year that has been a life changer in your life? What's the best $100 you've spent the last year?
Trying to think what.
That's a tough one, right?
That's a tough one. Best $100 I've spent. It's a little over $100, but my AirPods. I am not an Apple fan at all.
Yeah.
But the AirPods with their noise canceling and figuring out how to hook it up to my Android. I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome. What favorite book? What book has influenced you the most, either in life or in your business?
Favorite book, I would say, there's Daniel Pink. He's written a lot of books, and I love all of his books, but there's one that talks about just motivation and why people do the things. And that's the other side, is just, what makes people tick,
yes.
And that's probably what I like, is like, what makes a house tick? I mean, that's probably what my passion in is I'll see like, how did that get there? What, it's not just like, oh, you've got a stain. It's like, how on earth did that? My brain loves to like,
the why,
that detective, like, why does he do that? And so when people do certain things, like, why do you do that? And so, and I can't remember the name of the book. It's like The Power of What? No, it's not. Anyway, Daniel Pink.
I can totally relate with that too, because it's one thing I love about this industry too, is as you meet new realtors or just different people like that, their story, right? Like everyone has a story, and it's so fascinating.
What got them into that, and what?
Yes, just what makes us tick, like you said, and and homes are the same, So, all right, let's jump into the rapid fire. So we'll just ask some quick questions, and just your first response is great. So, ready, set, go. Favorite vacation spot?
Anywhere in the mountains where I can't see anyone else, sitting in my motorhome.
Okay. Soda or energy drinks?
Dr. Pepper, preferably with a shot of raspberry.
Ooh, yum. I knew we were brothers from another mother. Gotta love the Dr. Pepper. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Favorite app on your phone?
Favorite app on my phone is probably, the do not disturb.
Mountains or beach? You just said this. Mountains. Right?
Yep.
Best advice you ever received?
Best advice, not that I always follow, but just breathe. Just it's okay. Take it easy and just relax.
Your dream car or truck?
Motorhome.
One thing you're currently learning or trying to improve on?
Delegation.
Awesome. Your most used emoji?
The one that's like that has like sorry, like
whatever.
Like
one word you'd use to describe yourself?
Ambitious.
Love it. Jared, thank you so much for being on today. It was fun to sit down with you for a little bit and just discuss all the awesome things that you're doing over at Pillar to Post. Thank you for everything that you're doing to elevate the real estate industry and the communities that we serve. It's been fun to visit with you. So if people aren't currently doing business with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
JaredFennTeam.com.
Okay.
is going to be the easiest way to find us.
Everything they need is right there.
Yep.
So there you hear it. Go to jaredfennteam.com. And Jared, you know what time it is?
Yes.
It's time to
Time to
elevate.
elevate.